everybody. This is for my blue and yellow classes. This is the role of political parties. We are starting a new chapter, chapter 22 in your textbook, and we're going to start with the first lesson. So what are the two things you need to get out of 22.1? We're going to learn how political parties help the government, but we're also going to learn how political parties help citizens. Just for your notice, remember all the slides are posted as well, just as regular slides. Here's our vocabulary list. I'll be explaining these terms as we go along. So where do we start? Let's go back to September. We talked about the social contract, okay? Hopefully that is ringing a bell for you. Remember, the social contract was John Locke's theory about why we need government. He said that people in the contract, citizens give up some of their rights, some of their freedom, some of their free will, and they give up some of their power to a government who then in turn, in exchange for us agreeing to follow the rules, the government provides us with services as well as protection. So in terms of what people want from the government out of this contract, well, we want our rights protected, okay? Think about the unalienable rights, our life, liberty, and property. It goes beyond rights, though, right? Beyond the unalienable rights. If you think back to when we looked at the Bill of Rights, you know, our freedom of speech, our freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to a speedy and fair trial. Okay, so people want our rights protected. We also want to be physically protected, whether that's in the form of a military protecting our nation, whether that's in the form of police officers, firefighters, ambulance. We expect the government to use its resources to protect our health and safety. We also expect the government to make sure that we're treated fairly. This, in one sense, could be being treated fairly in the courts, right? We want the law to apply equally to everybody. We want the judicial branch to be able to settle disputes between citizens. We want the court system to be able to put away criminals who violate the law. But we also want to be treated fairly in the workplace as well. We want to have equal opportunity. Lastly, we pretty much want, well-run society with services. Services like education, healthcare, all of our utilities. So in a nutshell, right, people want things from the government, and we are going to use political parties to help make sure that government gives us what we want. Alone, an individual might feel powerless to make their wants, needs, or ideas known, right? As just one person, you might not feel like you have a lot of influence. Now, if you are Kim Kardashian West with millions of followers, millions of dollars, married to, one of the biggest rap stars of all time, yeah, your voice is going to be a little louder than, little Miss McClatchy, 8th grade civics teacher from Rhode Island. But when we act together, right, groups of people can often have a greater effect. And I hope that's one thing that you've been learning this whole year. I really hope that you've been learning that this year, that, especially when trying to fight oppression, think about the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement. People had to work together to get their ideas heard. Originally, our democracy, though, was not set up to have major political parties. You have to remember that. We are going to look at later on this week about how George Washington felt about political parties. On a large scale, people form groups called political parties in order to influence the government. Okay, so that's what I was just saying, right? We form these parties because we want the government to do things for us, okay? The party, it's an organization of citizens who influence and control government by getting their members, their teammates, their party members elected into office. Party members share similar ideas about what they want the government to do, right? So if you're a party member, you believe in the party's ideas. And the goal is that if the party can put together enough of its members into office, that party can have a major effect on the policies of government. Political parties select candidates for many public offices at all levels of government. Right? I've got a little chart here of our 3 levels. Political parties set goals for the government and provide leadership to reach those goals. And political parties also keep an eye on each other. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go through each one of these goals. Selecting candidates. Parties nominate or name candidates to run for office. Parties will usually take the responsibility for finding and nominating qualified candidates. So maybe you're not interested in politics, but as a community leader, you've been very active in organizing, food drives, other kind of community events. A political party would say, hey, this person seems like they share my values, are the values of the party. Let's approach them and say, you're really well known in the community. We want to help you get nominated to this position in office, because if you're elected, we think that you are going to enact policies that support the party. Across our government, all three levels, state, local, national, there's about 500,000 elected positions. So political parties do a major role. They have a major role in putting people into these positions. Some public offices are called nonpartisan, which means that the candidates do not declare themselves to be members of any political party. Some of these jobs might be like the school board. A lot of positions that are nonpartisan are they're on committees or on they're on topics that are very, very small, right? Very local, very specific. So you don't really need like a full-blown national party to really get involved. However, most offices are partisan, meaning that the candidates run as members of a party. So nonpartisan, you're not related to a political party. Partisan, I'm one political party. You also can hear the term bipartisan. So bipartisan means when both political parties, multiple parties, agree on the same policy. The next element of what a political party does is setting goals. A political party establishes positions on issues and then sets the goals for the government. Each party has a platform. Now, think about what a platform is, right? A platform is a raised structure that you stand on. We're talking here as a metaphorical platform. The platform is the word we use to describe the statement of that party's official stance on major public issues. If you remember back when I was out one day when I was sick and you guys, you folks did a quiz for me on which political candidate you aligned with the most. You basically figure out your view on the platform, right? The platform is made of planks or position statements on each specific issue. So what does each party think should happen with immigration, healthcare, reproductive rights, gun control? There's all these planks, and the platform is the collection of all these ideas, and that's the statement. But the goal then of a political party is to get a candidate elected so that they can take those planks and turn them into actual policies. Where does this happen? These are just two logos of the conventions. So if you remember back in when we watched the Freedom Summer documentary, the Mississippi delegation was trying to, the Freedom Summer people were trying to get their delegation sat at the convention. At these conventions, convention meaning a big meeting, not only are you as a party picking who's going to represent you in elections, but you're also voting on the platform. So, this summer we'll be having both the Republican National Convention and the Democratic Convention. Who knows what's going to happen, right? It might be kind of different because of the virus, but at that convention, they will determine the platform. This is the 2016 platform here. The last main function is providing leadership. Leadership is necessary to make the laws and carry out the programs that citizens want. Party members in Congress select majority and minority floor leaders. Majority and minority basically means, well, which party has more people elected? So right now in Congress, there are more Republican senators than Democratic senators. So the majority party is the Republicans. They'll basically pick people to help run the show. We will be looking at those actual individuals in the next series of this unit. They'll also create whips. Whips are the people who are in charge of whipping up the votes, getting people on task. Parties also work this way at state legislatures. When we look at the executive branch, the political party of the president in power is known as the party in office. So right now, President Trump is Republican, so we would say this was a Republican White House. And the president then will often appoint loyal party members to government posts, like cabinet positions. The last note here is that after an election, the party not in power usually makes sure that the public knows when the party in power is not living up to its promises. This is like the understatement of the year, because as you should know from looking at the news, all everybody ever wants to do anymore is just like point fingers at what a terrible job the other group is doing. Parties, your book says that parties keep tabs on the behavior of members of other parties, right? They're eager to report any wrongdoing. The watchdog function of parties, watchdog, right? Think about what a guard dog would do. They make sure that members of the party in power are honest and hardworking. Again, this is kind of an understatement. You think about the news today, it seems like each party is way more focused on making the other one. This is my opinion, I suppose, but I feel that each party is more focused on making the other one look bad than actually working together to get anything done for the American people. I don't know. You could disagree with me, might agree. It's all good. All right, so that is where we're at with the first part of this series. You guys are now going to watch the second part at your convenience, sticking to our deadlines about who is in charge. Okay?